we should really respect that, because it's not, you can monetize that. The other thing is just about our own ability to raise money ourselves and coming up with creative ways to do it. I have, in the 90s, I had 2 very young children, they're now big men, but I can't remember the number of times that they would come home and they would have a sponsorship form. And invariably they weren't raising the money, we would raise the money amongst our friends, and then they would go back to school. Why aren't we involving our kids in that sort of effort for the projects that we're doing? Why can't we go to the schools that we're involved in and say, look, there's a project in Sudan that is dealing with trying to equip uniforms and books. Can we do a link between this school, where I have a relationship with my kids, and that school? Can we use the school to raise the money? There are lots of things that we can do in our own everyday lives, our networks, whether it's in the mosque or the church, to raise money. On Sunday there's going to be the London Marathon, where 80–90% of the people running in that marathon are raising money for charities. Well, why can't we field a team, for Balsam, for Sub-Saharan Africa, to raise money and actually involve our young people, in our projects, rather than them coming home with sponsorship forms for everybody else's project, and we just go along. So I think we need to be more creative about how we generate, because ultimately, aid money and all of this is very political. Everybody's committed at the moment. In 5 years' time, we don't know where Europe's going to be. The money may dry up. And we need to be beginning to think about how different kinds of models for how we can sustain our organizations. So I think two key things I'll just leave you with. You've got the sheet about the next funding rounds for some of the big organizations that are out there. They want to give money away. You have to establish relationships with them to get that money. We have a conference where a lot of the big funders are coming. We know that there are real issues. Some of it has to do with racism and discrimination, but there are some well-meaning people on the other side who have some real ethical issues that we need to respond to and answer to get that money as well. And at this conference, we're hoping that we will bring them together to help us answer some of those questions, so we can begin a partnership and we don't scare each other off by shouting at them or calling them all sorts of names, and they don't stereotype us and dismiss the work that we're doing, but we can start actually looking at the impact of the work that we're doing and the importance of it being funded properly. I'll stop there because I think we can have a discussion on some of those issues.
African organization will have the weakest link or report. We don't keep a good report, and always, if we use a photo is never lie. You can use 1,000 words and don't believe it, but if you get 5 photos, then trust what you're doing actually.
And just to pick up on that point, like the presentation this morning at the very beginning, with a very good example of a small project that started in Sudan. You can see the impact, the difference it's making in Sudan. If it was presented, and I'm apologizing and I'm generalizing this, so I apologize in advance, this is, I'm in my village, so I can say this. If it was presented by a mainstream wide-led organization, they would have put a spin on it, and it would have looked like they're, doing so many things, and yet, we, in terms of African culture, is where we come from. Even when we're doing big things, we don't want to, otherwise it feels like you're showing off. So we all have to feel very humble and apologetic. But in this culture, everyone you do one thing, one small thing, you've got to learn to, push the boundaries, celebrate, and act like you've done that. And that goes against us, because we do so many good things, but even when we want to celebrate and acknowledge what you're doing, even your own Africans will say, oh, there she goes, she's showing off again. But actually, you have to learn about the culture that we're existing in this country and how we project ourselves and how we articulate ideas. So that we can be acknowledged for the effort that we're doing. So I feel we've got a very good point there. We had yourself and then Maya. Any comments? Do you want to?
Oh, I just wanted to comment and sort of reiterate something that has happened, and it's about if you acknowledge that you require technical support, actually seeking that technical support, because sometimes we sort of disadvantage ourselves in thinking we are the experts, we are African. By virtue of being African doesn't make us experts in certain areas. Of course, we would want others to acknowledge where there is expertise, but it's also us accepting that I may need to work with this organization in order to achieve what we want to achieve. Because sometimes our involvement in international development as diaspora groups, I have found, is reduced to the fact that we have cultural know-how. It's not just about the cultural know-how. Then I might have some technical expertise I can offer, and I may require some kind of other expertise from someone else. So it's trying to harness those to achieve what we want to achieve. I think that's...
I think you don't respect the one who came, I think you someone on time. So when I found it so many times, when I go to Sudanese or African event, they give us time and they start 1 hour late. And that means I have to be late.
I think it's very complex. Sometimes you build it in if you know that some of the things are cut off. But what I'm saying is that as we move on, because I think all these things should be implemented. Like now, I think it's fine. We are starting, we are sharing ideas, we are doing all these things, and we are putting that leeway to be as inclusive as possible. But as we move on, as we become more professional, some people fall aside. But we need to make what we are saying that if you want to scale it up, to challenge all the other people who are doing it well, we have to be professional. We have to do all things. I also want to be quite clear that just because you are from the diaspora doesn't make you an expert. So there's a lot of, I know lots of Zimbabweans. If I know I want somebody in the diaspora, I don't ask anybody else who just been from Zimbabwe. I look for a Zimbabwean that I know can actually do the work. So just being Z doesn't mean that I actually know a lot about some other things as well. So we have to be careful that so that when we put somebody from our group forward, we know that they will represent us well. Because if they don't, it reflects on all of us again. So these people are listeners in the sub-Saharan panel. But if we put somebody forward who know that he will do the job well, and then it gives us credibility as a group. So I think that's very important as well. But I think when we sit together and shout at each other, we can share as much information. But we need to be professional when we scale up activity. That's what I'm saying. And I think it's important. Is that a question or you wanted to? No. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Lady Samuels. I'm from New High. It's a social enterprise that I set up myself. And it's based around community education, empowering people through education and learning. Anything about social enterprise is taking money from the community and helping the business. Any money from the business then goes into any money comes from the business then goes into building up the capacity of the individuals. So my question to you really is what opportunity is there for some of these projects that I've heard about today to become sustainable in as much that they don't always have to rely on funding? Because we know that funding very often just may well dry up. Is there an opportunity for some of these projects to go into a kind of social enterprise?
In a way, it's a question that probably you could answer more than I can to some extent. But all I can say is that we need to be looking at all different ways of raising and empowering ourselves. I mean, we at a certain level, we ourselves put money on it. We have to pay £25 for us to take it serious or to board to save as much. We do have social occasions where the big summer ball is a hotel, we raise money ourselves. And so, because a lot of our money is not huge amounts, so you need, as a group yourself, find ways of yourselves helping money and empowering. But I also want to say that if you are credible, then there's plenty of money out there. So, but it's nice to feel that you yourself are helping. But I also want to say that there isn't a shortage of resources in Africa. It's just harnessing those resources. I wouldn't be able to, you probably would answer your question better than I do, because that's not my area of expertise. And I think there's a huge number of looking at the dynamic of us as an organization, the cultural things that make things very different. Why are we successful in certain ways? Why are our boys not doing so well? African girls are doing well. We know that they are doing better than working class boys. But African boys do very bad. Afro-Caribbean boys do better. It's all we are not really engaging enough. We know that. And but we just complain instead of looking at what is it that we can do as a group so that we help us. So if you don't, keep on moving forward. And I think that's your area. And I just give you opinions, I don't have expertise to be able to answer that well. But there is a lot of little things. And in this country, there's a lot of opportunity to do this thing. I think so anyway. Maybe I'm just being optimistic. Thank you. I've done enough questions.